morning and welcome to the breakfast meeting. My name is Mordecai Mulisa. I just want to say thank you so much for keeping your eyes on NBS always. And for many of you have heard about aid that is always given probably to a country in videos, groups, to mention but a few. Now when we discuss law, there is some kind of aid that is always given that you may want to know. And I'm talking about legal aid. And that's what we are going to be discussing today or this wonderful morning with me. It is Dr. Sylvia Namubiru. She is an advocate of the High Court of Uganda and current CEO of Network-Laspnet. Of course, we shall have to know what does really Network-Laspnet do or what does it mean. And then Mr. Aaron Besigye, an advocate of the High Court of Uganda and current National Coordinator of Justice Centre Uganda. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good
morning, Mordecai.
Good morning, Mr. Marisa.
Yes. To our viewers, good morning.
It's my pleasure to have you this morning.
Yes.
I will start with you, just like the old saying goes, ladies first.
Yes.
What is legal aid? Is interested to know, and how does it benefit the community of Uganda?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mordecai. And our viewers, first of all, before I talk about legal aid, it's important that I emphasize the institution I work for.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's the Legal Aid Service Providers Network, and it's a network of over 55 non-government organizations providing free legal aid to the poor, vulnerable, and marginalized in Uganda. And we are now currently in over 80 districts. However, we also have partners like Justice Centres Uganda, as we tell you, that are also providing legal aid. What is legal aid? When you hear the word aid, you think it's just giving some kind of basic need and service that is, yes, of course, free of charge. But I want to contextualize legal aid to mean it is the way the people who cannot afford to pay for private practitioners are facilitated to access justice and be able to defend their cases or matters that arise or disputes that arise when they need to go to courts of law. But also we know that legal aid comes in two layers. We have what we would call like primary legal aid and secondary legal aid. Primary is where a lawyer is paid, for example, by a development partner, now that we have democratic governance facility, where the lawyers in different non-government organizations are employed to sit full time and receive clients and listen to their causes or their disputes and be able to advise them either to go into alternative dispute resolution or to help them litigate in courts of law. But then when it comes to the other layer of secondary, they are empowered. The community is given knowledge on how to use the law and be able to defend their rights, but also protect the rights of those around them. So in nutshell, that is legal aid, but it is anchored in our laws. And we have the Convention on Civil and Political Rights, which provides for everyone to have a fair hearing before courts of law, equality before law. And then we have also our Constitution. When you read Article 23 of the Constitution, 28, the right to a fair hearing, a right to counsel, a right to choose a lawyer of your choice. So it is anchored in the law. It's not a give, it's a right. Yes.
Well, wonderful. It is anchored in the law. Someone who is interested to know, Mr. Besigye, you as legal aid service providers, what are some of the challenges you are facing in doing this business?
Good morning, viewers again. Thank you to have me on this show. I work for Justice Centres Uganda, which is a government of Uganda project. And so what basically we do is to offer legal aid on behalf of the state. The biggest challenge we have had across even the country as legal aid service providers has been the issue of funding. Legal aid is very expensive, like all legal services. If you know how expensive lawyers are, engage one, and you will realize exactly how expensive they are. So just imagine this poor and vulnerable person who has a case, a genuine case, but cannot afford the services of a private advocate. So that's when the legal aid service providers came in to actually provide this service. But as clearly said, the biggest challenge and obstacle has been funding. I offer legal aid on behalf of the state, but 80% of our money is actually provided for by development partners, the democratic governance facility. We have more resources that come in from JEROS, the Justice, Law and Order sector, but that has not been sufficient enough to provide access to all the vulnerable persons that we would have actually wished to see. We would actually wish to see these reckless and unfair illegal evictions being stopped, because these people who are being evicted across, they are being evicted because they don't have actually services of lawyers. So the rich normally get their way through the system, and the poor end up actually suffering. So we would wish to reach at everybody who's vulnerable and who cannot access the service of a private advocate, to make sure that we help them so that they go through the entire process, the entire legal process, in a fair and equitable manner.
Well, thank you. Currently, Uganda does not have a harmonized legal aid law. And what is available is scattered, if I may say, like you mentioned, here and there. How is this, the absence of legal aid law, actually affect the Uganda and the work that you do? Okay.
Like you've said, we have, I'm not going to go into technical legal terminologies, giving the Poor Defense Acts and all that. I'm going to just contextualize the problem. When we don't have a government that has a primary duty to provide, and they are just providing services in piecemeals, they will choose what to give you and what not to give you. So currently, we have the state brief system, where, according to Article 28, everyone charged with a criminal offense is supposed to have a lawyer. But now when you look at the nature of lawyers we get under that kind of brief, it's like they are giving you, they don't mind putting in a lot, because even the resources that are come are meagre resources. And so if we don't have a harmonized legal framework that gives state obligation, that establishes a national legal aid fund, that establishes a structure like Justice Centres Uganda, if I may give an example, and resources it to its satisfaction in terms of money, in terms of human resource, then it means we are only depending on the mercy of the donors. So today, if the donor priorities change and we go into oil, and the donors think now we should focus our money in oil, then it means whatever is there is a project, it's going to come to an end. So, but when we have it anchored in a law, the law will spell roles, obligations, set structures, accountability, where do you report to Parliament, appropriation of resources, holding this structure accountable to the number of people getting resources, and being available at all times. For example, have we ever been there when we don't have a Uganda police?
Not really.
Have we ever been there when we don't have a DPP's office?
No.
So no one can wake up tomorrow and say we don't have resources to fund the Uganda police. So this is what we are looking out for. We are looking for a structure where we have the Public Defense Office, state-led, paid for by a taxpayer, and knowing that at all times when I walk into the office, either in the magistrate's court, I'll find an advocate there, ready to receive me, and I don't need to pay them money. They already paid salary by the state, and all they need to do is to listen to my matter and assess whether I can go and be supported. So every day you wake up, you know there is an advocate there. There is a paralegal there that is going to give me services. It's not by choice or something that you pick just because you have no choice, but it's available for you. Never mind the quality, you improve them as you go along. But you are assured that there's no one who is going to evict me from my land. If they do so unfairly, I have where to run to. No widow is going to be deprived of property. If they are deprived, they know where to go and seek redress. In addition to also having the complementary bit of the non-state actors to support whatever government would have set up. If I can give you an example here in East Africa right now, Kenya has that law, and they have the structure, a state-funded legal aid scheme. Tanzania, they do, and Rwanda, the policy is already in place. Uganda, we have been at it for the last 12 years. We are asking for this law, and we are not getting it. Yes.
Wow. Let's talk about proposals, Mr. Besigye. What are some of the features of the proposed legal aid law, and how important are they in empowering the people of Uganda and as far as seeking justice could be concerned?
We have quite a number of proposals, and one of the proposals was actually to give Justice Centres a legal framework. Justice Centres, as I said, was established by the Justice, Law and Order sector and is operational in the 13 high court circuits across the country. But they still operate like a program. It is not institutionalized. We would actually wish that it is given the mandate of a fully fledged institution, be able to actually to account for the resources that have been actually advanced to it, and be able to actually extend these services beyond the current scope of coverage. We would actually wish to be everywhere, in any place where there is a court, that we should actually be there and offer the services. Now, that one has its own implication. So our proposal has been that justice centers already exists. So you don't need actually to reinvent the wheel. So this argument of saying that there is no enough resources to establish a structure, no, a structure that is already in existence is actually what is only lacking is actually to operationalize that structure and make sure that the services are extended beyond what it is now. People are talking about establishing a board. We are not talking about establishing a board. At the moment, we use a steering committee, which is much a voluntary board. And they are willing to actually continue work as a board. What is important is that that board is able to give an oversight function to this structure that is going to offer legal aid on behalf of the state.
Thank you so much, Mr. Besigye. Sylvia, you've talked about Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda on it, and Uganda. We are lagging behind, having this for the past 12 years. In your own thinking, what is delaying? What is causing all this delay in passing the law?
To start with, I think there has been a protracted engagement between the government of Uganda and us, the lobbyists that are asking for this law. To start with, this law was first led under the Justice, Law and Order sector. And it began with the policy, the legal aid policy, because usually it's better to begin with the policy before you have a legal framework. And a policy draft was prepared with all the stakeholders' input under the leadership of the Justice, Law and Order Sector Secretariat, which had a technical kind of a task force. And this policy was placed before Cabinet in 2012. And from that point, the Cabinet has not passed the policy. So what I would call lack of political will. In other words, they have not prioritized the importance of enabling access to justice